Welcome to RacerXOnline.com. I am Kris Keefer. We are here at Fox Raceway, aka Paula Raceway, if you're not familiar, and you're looking at a blue and red bike here. So, CRF250R 2022, a 22 YZ250F. A lot of emails come through my email chain over at Kris@KeeferInkTesting.com. That's the email if you want to ask any questions. And within those emails, a lot of those questions are, hey, Keefer, which 250F is right for me, the YZ250F or CRF250R? Out of all the emails that I get, these two bikes are the most popular. So, with the Honda being all new and Yamaha just having a couple revisions, I thought, why not do a little mini shootout before the actual big 450 shootout is coming here next month. So, we brought a few riders out, a lady, and we brought a couple guys out here, different sizes, different types of riders, and we're going to see which bike is right for which rider. We're going to break both of these bikes down, talk about engine, suspension, chassis, ergonomics, and really try to help you guys out there to decide which 250F, red or blue, is right for you. So stay tuned. We're going to hear about some conditions out on the track. We're going to talk about the dirt, which bike is better for what type of dirt. We're going to talk to these riders and talk to them and see which one they like best. So lots of information here. Stay tuned, and we'll be right back. We're wrapping it up here. CRF250R, YZ250F. I rode it. Kenny rode it. Sophie rode it. Michael Allen rode it. Rode them. And we came away with quite a few different opinions about these bikes. So I'll start first, and Kenny, you can kind of banter back and forth. But as different as these bikes feel, they're very close in nature. And I know a lot of this stuff maybe doesn't make sense. But for instance, and I'll give you guys a for instance here, the YZ250F is a very free-feeling engine as you're accelerating. So if you're coming out of a corner, it spools up really quick. The RPMs go up really fast. But off throttle, it has a lot of decel engine braking, where the Honda doesn't spool up as quick, maybe a little bit slower RPM revs, but very free off throttle. So it's kind of a unique situation, but for me, it's hard to beat the torque of the YZ250F. Kenny, you came away actually blown away about the Honda, how good it was, but give us your opinion about the engines on each.
Yamaha, the thing spools up so fast. It's so torquey. I can ride it around in third gear, kind of like if I'm on a 450, and it's just always there. We're at Fox Raceway today. The ruts are long, and they got hooks at the end of them. That's something I really liked about the Yamaha, is when you get to the end of the hook and you need to kind of get out of it, the Yamaha does a phenomenal job of just in, out, and you're just powering on. So if I'm comparing it to the Honda did surprise me a lot today. Like, I first got on it and I was trying to ride it like I was riding the Yamaha. I was just trying to be super aggressive. And I found out quickly that the Honda power on the new 22 is very linear and smooth and usable. If you try to rev it, it just falls on its face. But if you short shift it and keep it in the meat of the power, the thing goes. And it's very deceiving because it feels smooth and like it's not ripping your arms off like the Yamaha. but very usable power.
And I guess I want to make this clear is when we say linear and smooth, it's not slow by any means, because when you say that about a 250, be like, oh yeah, it's slow. So there is more torque than last year's Honda on the 22, but it still doesn't have the bottom end RPM snap like the Yamaha does. But for me, when you're in the mid-range the Honda pulls better than the Yamaha in the mid-range. And I think even though the Honda doesn't rev out really far, it does rev out further than the Yamaha. You would agree?
I would agree. Like, you hear him saying, but, we're going to have a lot of buts in this conversation today just because there's benefits to both sides. So I agree. The Honda just keeps on pulling, whereas the Yamaha, you got to start shifting.
Yeah, it's similar to a 450. If you're a vet guy and you like to short shift and lug, the Yamaha is your cup of tea on that engine just because you can kind of lug it around and it's not going to stall out on you. The 250 Honda likes to be revved out a little bit more for me. I can come out of a corner in second gear, let it eat a little further than the Yamaha, and then I can shift. And that third gear is a pretty magical gear on the Honda where that mid-range is pretty meaty. I thought it was pretty funny. Kenny came to me after he rode him. He's like, I feel like Honda tailored this bike around Jet Lawrence because just of how he rides.
I completely agree. Like 3 laps in, once I realize that, okay, if I just kind of short shift this thing and be smooth, it just keeps pulling. It immediately, I'm like, this is how Jet rides a bike. You know, you can always see he's like it seems like a gear higher than most to where you can't hear him riding around the track. And that's what it feels like to me, is like it's tailored to kind of how he's riding the bike. And if you can get comfortable with that, you'll obviously see there's a huge benefit to it, especially in choppy stuff out of the corners, like being a gear high and being in the meat of the power on the Honda, like it's very beneficial.
We'll get to the suspension and chassis now. So, I mean, this is no comparison. It's hard to beat a KYB feel. KYB has a lot of comfort. That SSS fork is amazing. It moves more than the Showa fork here on the Honda. The Showa stuff is a little bit more of a dead feel, a little bit firmer in the front. Honestly, here at Paula, I prefer the Showa stuff just because it's deep. The bumps are soft and tall, and they're not as choppy as, say, like Glen Helen, and that's where I would prefer the KYB stuff, where it moves more and it follows the ground better. Here, it's softer, it's a little bit more dead. I can charge into the corner a little bit harder, and to me, the Honda chassis is a little bit flatter off throttle. Just like I said on the top of the show, it's very free off throttle. There's not a lot of engine braking on the Honda, so it stays flat coming into corners, which makes me corner so much better on the Honda. I will say this about the Yamaha. It is stable in straight line. If we come out here where it's harder pack in the back at Fox Raceway, this stuff picks up those imperfections on the track much better. But in the softer portion, which is 3/4 of this track, the Honda, for me, is just a better chassis and suspension setup, being that I'm 170 pounds. You mentioned maybe it's still a little bit soft for you in the front. A lot of people out there think the fork is firm on the Honda. So give us your opinion on the chassis and the suspension on each.
So things I love about the Yamaha is, the first thing, it's consistent. Like, always consistent. I can do the same thing every single time, and I never have to be concerned of what it's going to do. It's never going to step out. It never upsets, ever, especially in the choppy stuff. If I go to the Honda, especially at the end of the day, like I just went back out and did, ride both of them again to make sure my opinion is right. The Honda, I get up in an upset feeling, especially in the choppy stuff.
Yep.
I've always kind of said that I felt like a Honda was rigid, and I think people will agree with that. Thankfully, on this new Honda, and it's a lighter, free-feeling 250F, like, it doesn't feel as rigid to me as, like, the 450, I'd say.
Which is weird because if you guys are listening to this and watching this, the 450 and 250 frame on the Honda is the exact same, which you would think, oh, man, it's going to be super rigid, similar to a 450, but you don't get as much rigidity on the 250.
Yeah, I agree. And I think, as we spoke, I think it's like inertia, just more weight coming into the turns. So, yeah, it feels lighter, freer. But with that said, I truly love the Yamaha and how consistent it is, just everywhere. Now, first thing this morning, we had some nice, like, long, deep, soft ruts. And as soon as I went from the Yamaha to the Honda, the thing that stood out to me is that on the Yamaha, if I went into the long, soft ruts, it would kind of soak me up, like really trying to drag in, and I really had to power through. When I jumped to the Honda, same ruts, it just kind of felt like very free and floated through it, like if I was on like a two-stroke feeling. It didn't soak in, and I was really able to kind of like just pick my way through like the long ruts, and it was easy to navigate.
So, yeah, for me, the Honda just feels like a lighter bike overall. Some of that has to do with having not as much engine braking. as the Yamaha. And you can also fix that via Yamaha Power Tuner, which we did. We have a different map on here, the Keefer Free Feeling map that you can see up on my website. And that does help some off-throttle feeling, but still, it's hard to beat this Honda when it comes to cornering and laying it in the corner. Consistency, I would have to agree with Kenny. Like, the Yamaha is overall more consistent, but for me, I look at how a bike comes into a corner, and the Honda just comes into the corner a little bit better here at Paula. Now at Glen Helen, I'd be all about the Yamaha because it's a little bit harder pack and choppy. So it just depends on where you're at. Ergonomics, I'm 6 foot. It's hard to beat a cockpit of a Honda.
No, I agree. It's like everyone says this. The first time you jump back on a Honda, like, ergos are just, it feels so good. You feel pro riding through the pits, right? It's just like, all right, everyone stop, look at me.
Feel like Kenny?
Yeah, something like that.
Not Kenny Day, maybe Kenny Roxon.
different Kenny. But with that said, yeah, the Honda ergos, like, everything about it feels really good. And, like, immediately, the first lap on the Honda, it's like you're jumping stuff and it feels comfortable. So ergos on a Yamaha, bars and stuff doesn't really bother me too bad. I'm pretty easy to jump in between, but immediately you get that wide leg feeling. You know, the Honda's very slim and narrow. You jump to the Yamaha and your legs are kind of sticking out. So that's a little bit of an adjustment for me.
Being that Kenny is 5'6", I feel like people mistakenly say Yamaha is a bigger, taller type of machine, and I think it's the opposite. I think the cockpit overall is built for someone like Kenny, where it's tight. The pegs are higher up, the seat is low. Things are a little bit more, I would say, cramped for me, but maybe really much better for Kenny. So just depending on what you like. All right, so let's wrap your portion up here. You're gonna go buy a bike, or one of these two.
Yeah.
Which one you getting?
I'm gonna go blue. I'm blown away by what they've done with this bike, and as we spoke, I think a little bit more time, some engine stuff, give it a little more torquey feel off the bottom, and like suspension on this thing. Man, these are very competitive bikes to each other, but overall, I'm Yamaha.
All right, Kenny's Yamaha. All right, I brought the ladies in for this one. That's right, Sophie Phelps, Loretta Lynn winner. We're both Loretta Lynn winners. How's that feel?
It's still surreal. I've said it for a few months, since I actually did win, and it's still surreal. It's probably not going to get any less surreal. Is it still surreal for you?
It's long gone for me now. I'm back to the grind, and it doesn't even matter anymore. No one respects me at the house anymore. So, but your household, your queen, Sophie Phelps.
My mom is definitely the queen as opposed to me, but I do have a little bit more leverage with different things, but that's about it.
So I brought Sophie on here because not only is she an important demographic for us, I think also she comes up from a different brand. She rides a KX250. She's in between bikes. She may or may not ride a Kawasaki next year. We don't know. So I thought she'd be the perfect candidate to try a couple different flavors out. So Sophie, now that you got a chance to ride the red bike and the blue bike, your Kawasaki has a distinctive power to it, but which power do you like better, the red or the blue bike? Which more comfortable for you?
It's hard to say. I'd say I'm definitely kind of in between, but the Honda's power is more calm. Yep. If I had to, kind of describe it in a way, I would say it's calm because you're getting a lot of it, but it doesn't feel like you are. So I realized that and then the Yamaha, it's more, it's not even choppy, but it comes in fast, I guess. But I would, feel like I'm going slower on the Honda, but be going the same speed, just because the power is more smooth.
Yep. So that's what we kind of were saying. It's a little bit more of a linear feel on the Honda, but yet I would say, and Sophie brought this up, this is a good point, I do feel like I get more rear wheel connection on the Honda at times because it's a little bit easier, not as free, doesn't spool up as quick like the Yamaha, so it's a little bit slower revving and you get more rear wheel traction. Hopping on both of these, and you rode them quite a few times today, I'm going to skip over the suspension for right now, but ergonomically, which is, the rider triangle, when you sit on both of these bikes, you go out on the track, which one do you feel most comfortable on?
I would say the Honda for sure. The Honda's more slim, which in comparison to my Cowie is very similar. The Yamaha, which you can probably just tell by looking at them, is a lot wider up at the front around the tank. And that's not my favorite. It wasn't bad once I got riding on it. It felt, I just kind of got comfortable on it. But the Honda's definitely more slim, and I like that better.
Yeah, so the Yamaha takes a little bit of time. If you're coming off of a different brand of bikes, and I always tell people this, the Yamaha takes a little bit of time, and some people don't give it enough time to really give it credit, I guess I would like to say, because it does feel wider in the shroud area, but once you ride it a full day, you don't notice it. It's when you get off of it and go back to a bike like the Honda, you really can appreciate how slim and narrow the Honda feels. Cornering, this is also important, Loretta's, a lot of ruts.
Oh, yeah.
Which bike do you feel like you can corner better here at Fox?
It depends on the corner, really, but the Honda tucked into ruts really well. You'd get into it, and it would lean over, and it would stay just really nicely. And then I also felt like in the corner, I could pull it around more. I could kind of pull the front end if I wanted to pop out of it or, push it a different direction. I was more able to do that. But the Yamaha definitely, I felt like it hooked up better on the on more of hard pack stuff. Although the
front end or rear end, you think?
Front end. Okay. Yeah, the front end on the Honda, I came into a couple of the more hard pack corners, and I would drag the front brake or tap it, and it would kind of lose some traction. It would tuck on the front end. So I think it depends on the corner, but I really liked how the Honda tucked into the ruts.
Very good point by Sophie. So engine braking, with comes engine braking, comes some front wheel traction. I do feel like in the hard pack there is more front wheel feel on the Yamaha because of you get a little bit of pitching to the front end and the tire bites to the ground more because you have more weight to the front end. The Honda, like in the soft stuff, like I mentioned earlier, remains really flat and planted, but you have traction when it's soft, right? But you don't have that engine braking on the Honda to kind of weight that front end. So in the soft stuff, it's not so noticeable. When you get to the hard pack on the Honda, you let off, that knobby is still not digging into the ground quite as good as the Yamaha. So Sophie brought up a good point. Along with engine braking comes some front end traction, which is important. Now, suspension. I don't know if I'm supposed to ask the lady this, but how much are you weighing?
Oh, you're totally allowed to ask me. 143 pounds, and I will take every pound as it comes. I try and put on muscles, so yeah, 143.
Suspension, which feels the most comfortable? Your Kawasaki obviously has some work done probably because you're racing, but in stock form, which bike feels comfortable out here?
In stock form, the Yamaha definitely feels the most comfortable. I'm sure you've heard it from other people, but it is straight as an arrow through all of the chatter. The Honda kicks around a little bit more, which I noticed on my stock Cowie suspension. It also does that. So I wasn't unaccustomed to the kicking around from the Honda, but it was really nice to get on the Yamaha and have just a straight drive through all the chatter.
On the Honda, do you feel like it's a little bit more rigid than the Yamaha? Does it skate around a little bit more?
It definitely did, yeah.
So, kind of what the consensus is for all of us, it's the same. Like suspension on a KYB stuff is really planted. It moves more, but stability is very high. All right, so your mom and dad, you're gonna get home, and decide. Okay, what are we gonna race? You have a Honda contract. You have a Yamaha contract. I'm gonna break this in two questions here.
Okay.
Contracts, Yamaha, Honda, which one would you rather ride?
That is really hard, I'm going to be honest. I think whichever bike I got on and stayed on, put time forth, I think I could be equally as fast on either one. But as of right now, I think I'd go with the Honda because I feel like we were talking the ergonomics of the bike. The wider front end of the Yamaha was kind of hard for me to get over out there, even when I did a lot of laps on it.
Yeah. Okay, now you got to pay for your bikes. No contract. You still doing the same thing?
Yeah, probably.
All right, there you have it. Honda takes it. So now we're tied. So the tiebreaker, Michael Allen coming in. All right, third rider of the day. This is one of my buddies. He is a welder. That's right. He welds stuff, and he rides for fun. He drinks beers, and he loves off-road. But I brought this type of guy because he wasn't a 250 rider, but then I started to get him to ride more motocross, and he was like, 450s are too much. So now he's all about 250s. He has had the Yamaha for a couple years in the test stable, so he's used to this bike. He hasn't ridden a Honda since 2018, right?
Yeah, at the intro that you and I went to.
So height, weight.
Ooh.
Oh, the weight part. Sophie answered it no problem.
6 foot, 180.
Okay, yeah. That's good. 180. We need a little heavier guy in this. Okay.
Thanks.
All right, so you hopped on both of these here. You're not a jumper.
No, I'm learning still, but no, not really. I enjoy it, but I'm not very stylish, that's for sure.
All right, you rode both of these. Let's talk about the engine on each. Sophie had her opinion, and so did Kenny. I have mine. Which engine do you like the best, and what's a standout on each of these?
It's like a loaded question because they both have areas where they're good. Like if I am riding a lot of inside ruts and need some torque, the Yamaha it's unbeatable in that part of the track. But if you're leaving a corner, going down a long straight, you need to pull a gear far, the Honda's better. The Honda feels more racy to me, where the Yamaha feels a little bit, I don't want to say lethargic, but kind of heavier feeling, and it shuts off when you start revving.
Like revs out quick.
Yeah, it revs out quick and stops making power, where the Honda just keeps pulling.
I'm just going to throw this question out here. We don't normally talk about this, but I feel like why not talk about it? Vibration. Do you know anyone worse than the other?
The Honda actually I felt there was more vibration when I started it and sat on it. But then riding, I almost feel like the Yamaha has more. Maybe some of that's the raspiness of the muffler, where the Honda sounded so quiet. Like,
yeah, so for me, when I rode the Honda up in Washington at the intro, I noticed it sounded like the Yamaha. They're both raspy sounding mufflers. The Yamaha stock muffler blows out really quick, so you guys are going to have one of these 10, 12 hours. It's going to sound really loud. The Honda will last a little bit longer, but they're both loud sounding mufflers.
Yeah, the Yamaha is raspy almost when it's brand new. And the Honda at idle is pretty quiet. I was actually really surprised because I'm used to riding the Yamaha. But when you start revving it, it has that raspy tone to it.
All right, I'm going to put you on the spot, breaking down these categories because we haven't done this yet for each guy here and lady. Favorite engine today?
Honda. Today, just barely. I don't know. Maybe it's because it's new and exciting to me, but...
just easier for you to ride?
Easier for me to ride. I didn't like having to downshift, maybe an extra gear leaving a corner, but I think overall the Honda was more fun today.
Okay, now let's talk about suspension and chassis together. We all know the KYB stuff's good. We talked about that. Your opinion on that? Coming from an off-road background, you like softer stuff. Now you're going to have to run some firmer type of settings here in motocross. What you got?
I do like softer stuff. The Yamaha had a pitching sensation. If you go from on throttle to off throttle, it almost felt like it would seesaw.
Pitching.
It would seesaw. Yeah. And the Honda, it didn't feel stiff or harsh. It felt firm. That's the way I'd explain it. The Honda just felt more firm, and like you came up short or overjumped something, the Honda felt more forgiving.
So the Honda, actually, when you do make a mistake, let's say you case a jump, felt like it had more holdup?
Yeah, I felt like it had more holdup. It didn't blow through. It didn't have that seesaw pitching sensation.
So I'm going to one-up Michael here and just throw a couple of my opinions in here. So initial touch for me, initial touch in the world of testing is right when I slap down, right when both wheels hit. I do feel like there's more comfort within the Yamaha suspension. But if I'm going to case something and really slam, I do feel like the Showa stuff does have that more dead feel to it. And just, for me, just a little bit better bottoming resistance. So comfort initially for me is better here, but in-stroke feel, Showa seems to take that. Cornering, something that you need to work on in motocross. Which one makes it easier for you to feel like you're a badass cornering type of guy?
I will never feel that way. But the Honda, hands down, I've been riding the Yamaha for a couple years, and I didn't think it turned that bad, and I don't think it turns bad. It turns better every year as it gets newer. But I got on the Honda today, and it's been a few years, and you just think about turning, and it puts you in the corner. It leans in super easy. It sometimes has a tendency to feel a little knifey if you
oversteer in the testing world.
Oversteer a little too much. If you put in too much input, it will oversteer, but the Yamaha can understeer as well. So
yeah, understeer, so a little bit of pushing on the Yamaha sometimes. Sophie brought up the good point that the engine braking does help her have a little bit more front-end traction on hard pack on the Yamaha. Do you notice that?
I did not notice that.
Okay. So straight line stability. Out here in the back section of Paul, it's hard pack, choppy. Which chassis feels most planted?
Yamaha. Like, you can go wide open and not be scared to deflect or anything. The Honda's not like super sketchy, but it has a tendency to I don't want to say hunt and peck, but it was a little bit more nervous than the Yamaha.
All right, so ergonomically, you're 6 foot. You're hopping on each. Which one feels better?
The Yamaha. I think the rider triangle fits my body better, my frame. I got on the Honda.
You're a little hunchy when you ride.
I know, and I hate it. It looks terrible. Oh my God.
But I think the little hunch actually helps in that little pocket right there in the seat of the Yamaha.
Yeah, I feel comfortable whenever I sit on the Yamaha. As soon as I got on the Honda, I felt cramped. I got used to it, but it definitely felt tighter.
All right, we're gonna wrap this up, Mike. You're gonna go buy a bike because that's what you do. You buy motorcycles. You want to have some fun with your buddies. We're going to go to Fox Raceway on the weekend, drink some beers afterwards, hang out.
Are we gonna ride off road at all? Or?
Okay, well, yeah, okay, maybe that'll be the second part of the question. We're just going to ride moto right now.
Okay.
Which bike are you choosing?
Yamaha. Overall, if I'm gonna buy it because it's so versatile, because let's get real, I'm only gonna gain more weight, so it'll probably help.
All right, you're going to ride off-road. That would be the Yamaha because it's obviously more stable.
Yeah, I agree. Like if you want to race like a GP or something like that, where you needed a bike that had a little more bottom or is more stable at speed, Yamaha's the bike.
All right, let's talk a little bit about durability because we didn't talk about that yet. For me, I can't really say too much about durability about the Honda yet because we haven't put enough time on it, right? So the Yamaha is proven. I get a lot of emails saying, oh, the timing chains break. I had a rod go through my cases on the Yamaha. Stuff happens, right? So things happen. I have ridden the crap out of these things. He has. All we've ever done is change the oil and filters, and it's ran fine. Obviously, Mike is not revving the crap out of it. I get on it. I'm a rever, so it takes some abuse, and it's a very reliable bike. I will say the air filter system on the Yamaha is a pain in the ass for me because it gets dirty so fast.
Oh, yeah, I thought you meant changing it.
No, changing it's easy, but I'm afraid of sealing. I feel like it doesn't seal well. It gets dirty quick. So
Sucking the dirt in straight from whatever you're riding into. So off-road guy here, yeah.
you're SOL because you're getting dust right in there, right?
Yeah, totally.
So things that I don't like about the Honda, there's 2 bolts on the Honda seat, which you can get loose, fine, but taking them out is kind of a pain because it clips the seat foam on the seat here, so it's kind of a pain to get them out. The Honda seat comes off the other direction versus normal seats, so that's a little bit different. The air filter system, although it doesn't get dirty as quick as the Yamaha, it is a tight fit in there, and it's kind of hard to finagle your way in there, but overall easy to get in. It's just you got to make sure you're in there correctly. So a couple little things here and there. I know that the Honda comes with Pirellis. We put Dunlops on these today just because I feel like it needs a 110 90-19 rear, not a 190. That's, to me, is a little bit narrow. Honda did that to save some weight. Obviously, Pirellis overall weigh less than a Dunlop, but for me, consistency, a little bit better with the Dunlop. It lasts a little bit longer than Pirelli. So Dunlop MX-33s were all around on these bikes. Overall, for me, I would also choose the Yamaha because of durability, torque feel. I'm lazy, I'm old, I want to lug it. I ride 450s, 250. Yamaha provides that for me. If I was going to build one of these, I would ride the Honda because, man, Mike's right. It is racy, it is fun. Once you build a Honda, there's something special about a nice, fast Honda with the chassis, cornering. You have some more power to ride a gear higher, and you can get over that bump, and the chassis is not as stiff. So stock form, Yamaha is it for me. Even though ergonomically for me it's not the best, it's just a solid overall package. So better job from Honda, man. Like, they've come a long way. I would assume in these shootouts it'd be a lot closer to the front this year than it has been in the past.
Yeah, and that's what I want to preface is I say Yamaha today, or not Yamaha, Honda today, Yamaha overall, but it's close. It's really close. I was really impressed with the Honda because the last one I rode was 18. It had really, really no bottom end, and they've helped that significantly. I feel like I have to feather the clutch a little more than I'd like.
Another note, clutches. Clutches last longer on a Yamaha. This Honda does fade a little bit more than the Yamaha clutch. Brakes, for me, I would tip that to Honda. Honda has a little bit better front brake. It's a little bit spongy here on the Yamaha. All right, so Mike, anything else you want to add that we didn't cover here?
I forgot to mention the clutch. To me, the window of engagement on the Honda is much larger, where the Yamaha feels much more on-off, and the engagement's pretty far out on the clutch throw, where the Honda, as soon as you release it from the bar, it starts grabbing. So I feel like slipping the clutch on the Honda is easier.
Map switch on the Honda, they're actually 1, 2, and 3. You can change. Kenny was on 3. Sophie was on 1. What were you on?
I was on 3.
Okay, so hard hitting. There is some options on the Honda. No, it doesn't have a cool tuner like the Yamaha power tuner. Very easy to adjust. Mike did that today. Keefer free-feeling map in map 2, stock in map 1. Remember, light on is map 2, light off is map 1. Fun day for me. I'm glad I got to do this and shoot these things out back to back. I've been riding both of these bikes for quite a long time, and I wanted to bring some other opinions in here, so we did that. So hopefully this gives you some information. If you have any questions about these bikes, Kris at KeeferInkTesting.com. I'm happy to help you guys. If you see me at the track, come by, say hi. We can talk about dirt bikes, whatever you have. We're here to do that for you guys. And of course, RacerXOnline.com for anything else that you guys want to see. Races, lifestyle stuff, all kinds of things over there on our website. And of course, the publication side, 12 issues, $30. Get something free. I don't know what it is right now. It's always something new, but you get something free with. You subscribe?
I'm gonna do that right now. We're gonna get off this. I'm gonna go do it.
Michael's gonna go subscribe. You guys should too. I'll see you on the next one.